Hi, welcome to Relatively Sane. It's Jessica. Who else would it be? It's Jessica Curson. I am in a hotel for the first time in 3.5 months, and it feels weird. I have to admit, it was weird coming here and checking in and just coming up to the room. I'm like, what can I touch? Can I touch? Oh, it's just so strange. It really is. But I'm dealing with it. I feel like I'm very safe, but you have to take risks in life. So I am forcing myself to go out and do things that are uncomfortable. But I got to tell you, the thought of getting on a plane, being in an airport right now, I can't do it. I can't do it. I see my friends doing it, but it's too much for me. It was a lot for me even before this whole thing happened. I was like getting so sick of being in airports and being around people with their bare feet. And do you know how many people have put their bare feet up on the seats on airplanes next to me or like in front of me? Or it's really unbelievable to me. It's like, put a fucking sock on or a shoe and get your foot away from me. It's so disgusting. Who does that? I don't know. I wasn't brought up that way. I mean, things were not easy for me growing up in a lot of ways, but I was taught to cover my feet and I have nice feet. I'm always like, I point out things I like about myself because right now, I'm going to be honest with you, and some of this might be sad for you to hear, but I don't love a lot of things, but I do like my feet. I've always been okay with them. I feel like they're not heavy. They're like a normal weight. My toes are a normal length. Maybe I'll start showing pictures of my feet. I could do that for that OnlyFans thing where you show pictures of your feet and people, I don't know, they pay for it. I really don't care if guys jerk off or whatever they have to do. I won't see that happening. Can I just post pictures of my feet or show them on a video and then not see what the response is? I would totally do that as long as I didn't know what someone was doing in reaction to my feet. I would show my feet. I just said feet 468 times. Are you on Patreon? Come join Patreon. You get the podcasts early. Every week, you get 2 podcasts early. You get special videos. You get so many things. I mean, I'm starting to do more special things for the Patreon members, and I love it. It's $5 a month or $8 a month. But don't even listen. If you can't do it, you don't have to do that. You can send me a crumb cake, a roasted chicken. Like, you don't have to pay that money every month. You can just send me a roast. That's fine. Send me a roast. I love you guys. I really do. I'm so grateful for my fans. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for listening. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Jessie Curson, and on Twitter and everything else. You're the best. Be safe, be kind to each other, and enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Relatively Sane. I am here with my very good friend who I really, really adore, Matt Ruby.
Hey, so good to see you.
You too. I do this big intro. I just realized when I did that, and it puts a lot of pressure on the person I'm interviewing.
Yeah, but I feel like it's the nature of, we do it on podcasts and stand-up comedy and late night talk shows. It's like, ta-da, this person, I'm happy they're here,
Like, I know, because if I did it, I keep saying this, but if I did it the way I really feel, I'd be like, hey guys, I don't want to do this, but whatever, I have to keep my career going, and I really like him, so it'll be fine, but, just welcome Matt.
Well, isn't it so funny watching these late night guys do their shows from home and seeing what it's like without all the hoopla and band and laughter and, like, oh, you're just normal people now. This is kind of interesting.
I can't watch it. I can't watch stuff.
Well, because now they're just like us,
Right.
It's like, oh, we could do this.
Well, watching all that stuff, I find very depressing. I'm sure that'll change because it'll be like this for a while, but
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I kind of, to me, it's also similar with like the stand-up shows on Zoom and stuff, or live stream, where it's like we're trying to pretend that the world hasn't changed. We're just continuing to do everything the same way we used to, and instead of acknowledging that reality has shifted, and now like maybe we need to shift, and like maybe the old ways of doing stuff don't apply, but we're still like, no, we got to cling to this thing that's what we believe to be true or want to be true. It's like,
that's so
or we can
true.
accept that like it is not the same
What
anymore.
do you think we need to accept? Like some basic things, seriously.
Well, like for example, like I think, I mean, part of, I guess for me it's interesting because the whole reason I got into doing stand up in the first place was to, I used to be in a band, and I used to be like a sort of like a internet tech company guy, like designer, writer, media dude. And
Yeah.
so what happened is I would spend like 8 hours a day at work, and then I'd go home and like be recording at night. And I realized that I was spending my entire life just staring at a computer screen. It
Yeah.
was like literally like, you know, from like 10 a.m. till like 10 p.m. I'd be like looking at a screen, and I was like, I don't know. I don't care what I'm doing with this thing. I think when I'm on my deathbed, I'll regret this is how I lived my life.
Right.
And that was part of what spurred me. Like, I moved to New York. I started going to comedy shows. I was like, I want to try this. And there was something so magical about a room full of people being together and sharing that moment, and like kind of the hive mind thing that happens, and the energy that we get to share and all that. And that to me is like such the essential like engine of great stand up and what it is. And the idea that now we just want to replace it with a bunch of people sitting alone in their living room, you know, like, and pretend that it's at all anything like what stand-up comedy is, when people are in a room together and connecting and kind of having that humanity with each other, to me is like silly. It's
I
like, it's
agree with you
like I feel like I'm
completely.
part of like some mass delusion or something, where
Right.
it's like, do I have to pretend this is the same thing? Clearly it's not.
Well, I'm not pretending it's the same thing, but the question is like, what do you do? Because if you don't do that, like
Yeah.
it's now it seems that it's either in a lot of cases doing those kind of shows online, which I'm not doing a ton of at all, and I dread them.
Yeah.
Every time I've done one, I have been stressed out. I dread it.
Yeah. I did a corporate one the other day, and the host accidentally muted me in the middle of my set. I was just like, what is
That's happened to
happening
me
here?
too. I'm like just mouthing my act.
Exactly.
But would you rather do that or perform in a parking lot? Because I was just asked to perform in a parking lot,
I know.
and the
Me
laugh
too.
when they laugh, they beep. And let me tell you something. I so appreciate being asked. It's so
Sure.
kind. But if I do that, there needs to be an ambulance on the side, just waiting to take me to the nearest hospital, because that will be the
Yeah.
end of my life.
Yeah, and I'm just, like totally. I'm very happy to be asked to do
Yeah, me
anything ever,
too.
you know. But also, I'm just like, yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, also, it's like, assuming this is like a temporary period. It's like, okay, focus more on podcasting or writing or doing videos, sketch stuff. Like to me, if someone's going to consume my comedy through a computer screen, then I would rather have it be something I made to be consumed that way, as opposed to like pretending that
I
we're
get
all
it.
in a room together. So I like, to me, it's just sort of like kind of shifting, sort of there's a window to kind of do something different. And
Hmm.
like on some level, I think there's something a little bit healthy. I think the shorter period of time in your life that you do stand-up comedy, the more worried you are right now about this. But I think the more you have either done it for decades or plan on doing it for decades, it's sort of like, yeah, a couple months off maybe is like over a lifetime might be a healthy thing.
I know. I can't believe I was just talking to our friend John Laster before, and he was saying, can
Love
you,
John.
because he and I, the last show we did was the same night, March 14th, and he said, can you believe that we performed 3 months ago? And I said, oh my God, I cannot believe it's been 3 months. Like, I can't, I'm not exaggerating. I never thought I would take even a month off unless I was deathly ill. Even
Well, I
if,
think there's like, for us, it's like nourishment. And then I also think there's such like a competitive thing
Mhm.
also, like especially in New York, where there's just like, I always feel like we're like a bunch of wolves sitting around a table waiting for scraps to fall off.
Yeah.
And so any time you like take a step back or a break or try to like, not be full throttle with it, you feel like you're missing out or falling behind.
Totally. But so where did you grow up? We're shifting a little here, because
Sure.
we could talk about this for an hour, and I want to find out more, and I want people to get to know you more.
Yes,
Where did you
finally,
grow up?
people should know me. I
They
grew.
should. That's why you're on. I don't have people on that I don't think people should follow.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
grew up in Dobbs Ferry, New York, in Westchester County, and then I lived in Chicago for about 12 years, and then I moved back to New York.
And you were you an only child or did you have
No, I
siblings?
have an older sister,
Oh, cool. Are
and
your parents liberal? That's what I get from, not to get into politics, but I get
sure,
that from
sure.
you as a
No, well,
person.
I think you'll be interested. So, both my parents passed away, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
that was in the past decade or so.
Hmm.
My mom was super liberal, like hippie beatnik artist in the bohemian avant-garde art scene in New York in the '60s, and like hung out with like Allen Ginsberg, and was in some avant-garde films, and was arrested for drugs and all kinds of things.
Good for
And
her.
my dad was is came from Israel and was like super Republican right wing prosecutor who was an assistant DA in New York City who worked with Giuliani and was like a U.S. attorney,
Wow.
and was like a big like John Wayne, like he wanted to be like a Jewish sheriff kind of guy.
A
So
Jareth.
like I'm like the product of like a civil war of sort, politically speaking. Which to me is part of, I think that's served me well within comedy, of like I'm always trying to just see both sides and every angle on things and get at the truth, as opposed to like kind of be blindly partisan about stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was definitely like an interesting dynamic growing up to have two very different viewpoints, but like they made it work. I think back then it was like wasn't quite as tribal as it is now. I mean,
No,
they
not
certainly
at
disagreed on
all.
stuff, but it was just
Yeah.
sort of like my dad would spout off on his like pro Reagan shit, and my mom would like roll her eyes and like explain why she was wrong, and then move on. And I think for me, when I was young, I kind of like my dad was probably like a stronger influence on me, and how I viewed the world. And I think the older I got, the more I kind of saw where my mom was coming from, and the more I got into kind of had experiences that probably like shifted, made me more open minded about things.
So I never knew this. It's so interesting. So he grew up in Israel?
Yeah, he grew up in Tel Aviv.
Wow. And where did they meet? I'm just curious. Like at a party or something?
They were set up on a blind date by my grandma. It's a good story. So it's like my grandma, she was back then they called it evening wear. She was like a lingerie designer. She had her
Yeah.
own, like she makes her husband had like some failing garment,
Evening
manufacturing
wear
company.
is amazing. Like you can't
Yeah.
wear it during the afternoon or late
Well,
morning or yeah.
yeah. So okay. So she had a husband who, my grandfather, who had this failing garment manufacturing company, and she just like pushed him out of the way. It's like, let me take it over. I'm going to make evening wear for women, like gowns and robes and things to like what they wear on Mad Men when they go to sleep. Um, and it turned into this huge success, and she became like this, had this her own like clothing line for decades. And my dad at that time, before he was a lawyer, was a journalist, and he was a writer for Women's Wear Daily. And so my grandma calls up Women's Wear Daily and is like, you wrote a story on one of my competitors when you should be writing a story on me. And so like my dad's like, okay, goes to interview her, writes the story, and at the end of the interview, she's like, you know what, you should meet my daughter. She's learning how to type and she's seeing a therapist. And that for
She's
years I've been
seeing
trying
a
to write a good joke about
therapist.
it, which I've done. It's sort of like, look, she may commit suicide, but she'll type her own notes, so she's like, you won't have to worry about that part. um, but she had just been arrested on drug charges in New Mexico after being in like the Summer of Love in San Francisco, and was back home and living with my grandparents, and like was set up on a blind date with my dad. And 3 months later, she gave him a bunch of pot cookies and didn't tell him there was pot in them, and he wound up proposing, and then they got married.
God, what a beautiful American story of a
Yeah, it's
beautiful relationship. You drug someone to get them to, yeah, that's, listen, I wonder how they would, I keep thinking about this, how they would handle what's going on now. Like I think about my grandparents or my dad who just passed away. It's interesting. Like he was a Trump guy and a Republican, but he would also be petrified of the virus and would have been like furious that people were denying it was a problem or that people weren't wearing masks because he was a germaphobe and a control
yeah. My
freak.
dad
So
was a German. My dad was
yeah,
into the hand washing thing, like
right.
OG, like in a maniacal way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the political stuff. So my dad was super Republican, but I think he would hate this like who is this Republican Party? I don't think, like, because he was like a New Yorker, like every New
Yeah,
Yorker
it's
in the '80s
different.
knows
I
knows
know.
Trump is a con man.
Yeah.
Like, of course, is the greatest con man of all time. I feel like we don't compliment him enough. We spend so
No,
much time critiquing
I
him.
do, because
He's the best con man ever,
and he's an
it's one of the most
incredible
things.
salesperson. You guys,
So
anyone
it's
can
like
say
you gotta
whatever.
be like, oh
Yeah.
my god, what? Like once he's gone, we got to be like, boy, is like a hunter, like what a magnificent
Unbelievable.
beast.
Every word, every plan, it's crazy. He's a
It's
salesman.
the id.
Yeah.
He's gotten into the id of like American
Yeah.
culture and zeitgeist in this way that's so revelatory and fascinating. But I think my dad is like a prosecutor in the way he just ignores like the rule of law and like what Bill Barr has done with the Justice Department. I think, that would outrage him. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels like some historic times, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's like
it really
a lot of times you
does.
don't realize it, but like you're like, oh, right now, this year, they'll be talking about it.
Have you been like going through depression or anxiety? Do you like growing up? Did you suffer from either one of those things or?
No, I am.
OCD
I like
or-
have the opposite. I'm like numb. I remember I had the same. I had like a therapist and my Meisner coach in the same week gave me the exact same piece of advice, which always stuck with me. Is like you got to feel something. You don't even seem like you're feeling anything. Like
Yeah.
whatever you're feeling, let it out. So I mean, that clearly is probably like just repression from. Like I think I'm actually like super sensitive, and so
Yeah.
instead of like engaging with those feelings, I've most of my life, tried to repress them and be like, I've had toxic masculinity narrative of, being strong, being vulnerable is weakness, and, expressing your feelings or is like sort of, for women and stuff like that, which I think I've gotten better at. But yeah, I mean, maybe I have been depressed and just not engaged with it.
Like, do you feel energy? Are you motivated? Do you?
Right now, you mean?
Yeah.
Or in general, or always?
Well, right now, I mean, is because I feel like stuff that we all have struggled with has come out even more so. Meaning, like my friends who struggle from horrible anxiety have been horrifically anxious during this time. I mean, it's been bad.
Yeah. No, I haven't had that. I mean, I think I generally have kind of like a positive disposition. I don't know, like I've had like like lots of people have died in my life, and I've seen like some real shit, and I've been through some stuff in a way that I'm just like, yeah, it's life, like it's just it's sort of like I don't know, maybe on some level. My mom also had MS, this disease where she was, sort of like for 10 or 15 years slowly getting worse till she was paralyzed, and like the way she handled that and like with grace and kind of like sort of never complained and just sort of felt like, okay, this is my journey now. It's a more inward one and like a very sort of spiritual approach to it. And to me, that was sort of like a life lesson of how you deal with negative things. So it's like, it also just took me out of the mode of complaining. Like,
I so understand that.
I'm just not like a big complaint. I just think like I'm super lucky. My life's great. Like for me to complain about shit is not like a reasonable. I mean, we all have stuff we can complain about, but like, I don't know. I just think like it's your attitude. It's like bad shit happens, but now it's up to you. How do you process it and react and respond to it? And so I try to, I don't want to say that I'm always doing it in a bulletproof way, and maybe it ties in with that repression stuff, but like, I'm just like, okay, this is what we're dealing with now. Like, let's adjust and get through it. And as far as all this, like I'm a little bit of naturally like an introvert and a loner, and I've worked from home a lot, and I've got a girlfriend who I'm seeing. So like to me, this has just sort of been like okay, now it's the world has stopped, so now focus on the things that are in front of you and what you can do, and just try to pay attention to those things.
Which is so different than most comics, because most comics are incredibly negative. Do you feel that when you're around?
Well, people accuse me of being negative. I like people.
Really?
People like I'm really cynical and negative, and I just think like I really like calling out bullshit, and I think sometimes that gets misinterpreted.
So like, you're honest and real.
Yeah, like maybe to a fault. But you kind of have that too. It's just like if so, like I'm just like no. I feel like there's like an energetic thing when bullshit is happening, and I just refuse to participate in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that other people go along with it. It's almost like I feel like there's like this. Everyone's wearing this mask of bullshit. I'm just like, come on, we all know this is bullshit, right?
That's what's been very hard for me lately with everything going on. I mean, that's another thing that's been hard for me. Is like I see all this stuff, and I'm like, what is going on here? Everyone is losing everyone. is seeing things, or I can't even explain it. It's so confusing. But I've always been like you are, which some people might be surprised about. But I really always have thought, no matter how much I joke around and things I say, oh, it'll get better. It's, things happen for a reason. It's the ebb and flow of life. I have hope. I'm pretty positive. But lately I'm like, wow, it just seems like every day or every week something major, these major things,
Yeah.
like now the protest, like it's like the virus was enough for me to deal with. And now it's the protest and the virus again. And then it's just crazy.
I will. So I've been going to a bunch of the protests. Like I
Yeah.
live near Barclays in Fort Greene. So it's like literally the other day, I was
I've
like,
seen
oh, I
your
think I'm gonna.
pictures and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been shooting so many photos. But it was funny the other day. I was like, oh, I think there's a protest happening. I'm gonna go check it out. And it literally like just came down my block as if they were coming to pick me up. I'm like, okay, the protest is here, Mom. I gotta go. I'll
It's
be
like a
back at
conga
11.
line. Yeah.
I'll be back at curfew. So like, yeah. And to me, it's actually been like a really like positive, uplifting
Mhm.
thing to be part of. And also like I think I just miss being around people. I think that's kind of like the secret thing that we're not talking about, is like a lot of people are just like, ooh, it's an excuse to be around a lot of people. I miss that.
Yeah.
But that's part of why I've been shooting a lot of photos, just because like when I turn on the news and see what they're showing, it's such a different reality than what I see at these protests.
I know.
Because they always got to do the violence and the police brutality and shit like that. Most of what I see is like this really uplifting, like kind of beautiful expression of like grief and outrage, and sort of like what I was saying before. It's like people are like, this is all bullshit. We're not going to take this anymore. And like, to me, whenever anyone in society is doing that, it makes me feel good. I'm happy because like, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Me too.
Like yes, of course cops are assholes. Finally we can like why are these, like, we've all been around. To me what's fascinating, because I'm always trying to like see both sides of something, and what I see that's kind of uniting kind of like sort of the people on the left who annoy me and these cops is like this desire for compliance.
Yeah.
It's like this
I
really like
get it.
massive need to like, you say my name, you say these initials, you say it this way, you don't stare at me, put your hands against the wall, and if you step out of line, then I'm going to crack down in a way that's way out of proportion to whatever your intentions were. And I'm like, that to me is sort of like this common thread here, this desire for compliance, which I always think is like kind of I don't know, it's like a bullshit kind of, I don't know, it's not productive in general. It's more of a punishment oriented way of teaching people.
Yeah.
Like if we all think it's bullshit when the cops do it, then like that's the way I feel. Like I'm like, I have to say BIPOC now, like this BIPOC, like or LGBTQIA. I know it's like a hacky, like it's just too many letters.
No, that stuff's getting me crazy. I'm not
too
doing
many
it.
letters.
Well, I'm not doing it, and I'm gay. I'm not doing it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm
there's
sorry.
a one syllable version, or there's like 8 letters that
and
I
I
need
can
to
say
memorize,
whatever
and
the
then
fuck
I'm an
I
asshole
want.
if I don't do your
Right.
8-letter version.
Well, that's the thing that's so frustrating. It's like, stop telling me what I should say, what I have to say, what I'm going to say. Like, I'm allowed to say what I want. You might not like it. And if you don't, you never have to listen to me again or talk to me again. But stop telling me.
Also intention. Like,
Yeah.
can't we just gauge someone's intention?
Yes.
Is this person trying to be mean and trying to be an asshole? Or they just like maybe don't know, or they're just like, yeah, I've just always said it this way, so I'm going to keep saying it that way.
Well, that's always been hard for me as a gay person. I have to say that. It's when I have had, which is not often, friends who are very aggressive about it. Well, he should know that I did it. I'm like, no, actually, he shouldn't know. You're wrong, and you should not be angry and defensive. You should teach someone.
That's an issue I have with people on the far left sometimes too. It's like, I shouldn't have to teach you about this. Like, go. Like,
I know, I have the same thing.
If the person has never heard defund the police before, you might have to explain it to them.
I didn't know what it
and
meant.
that might be your burden. If you've got like this new thing that someone's never heard and it's a radical idea, you might have to explain it to people.
Right? Isn't it worth it to just explain it in one conversation to try and get someone to change the way they think, instead of just getting angry and pushy? And because people don't react well, it's like with kids. It reminds me of me with my kids. If I say stop doing that, like, I don't talk to them that way, because they're not even going to hear what I'm saying. But if I sit down with them and explain something and talk to them in a kind way, they really get it.
Totally. Well, it's like what like a therapist, teaches you about like relationships and how to engage and like kind of have constructive conversations. And I'm always like, yeah, shouldn't we be doing that with each other just in society, like as in groups and the way we talk with each other and like if we're fighting for change, like to me, it's always this urge to just like beat up on the enemy
I know.
as opposed to have a dialogue and seek compromise. Like I'm like, we're gonna have to live with the people who like Trump, right? Are we gonna have a civil war? Then let's have the civil war.
I
If
know.
not,
You're
we
so
gotta
right.
like figure out some like
Yeah,
like,
what is
we're gonna
everyone
live
planning
together,
on
right?
doing? We have to figure it out, or else there's going to be no country. Doesn't?
Yeah.
What do? You have to sit
Or
down.
even like believing in America. Do we still believe in America? Like, because this is when I start to feel like old man or naive or something. It's like I kind of believe in America. I think there's something beautiful. Like clearly we've fucked it up in all kinds of ways, but like I still think that like the Constitution. Even I get it. The founding fathers had slaves, but also like this country has been like this beacon of like freedom and democracy and stood for something and like had a moral standing around the world in a way that was kind of beautiful. It's like why my dad came here and a lot of people's relatives came here and like is there any like sort of patriotism that is like a healthy like manifestation of that as opposed to like it's all awful, burn it down, suck my dick, you people suck. And
I
it's
know.
like, well, what's the end game here?
I talked to someone the other day who said they didn't like the kneeling thing during the national anthem. I said, well, I'm okay with it. I don't love it, but I think that people should be able to do it. And
Sure.
it's their right.
Totally.
Well, not in the middle of a game. I said, I get what you're saying. That doesn't bother me. It's a statement, and I feel that people have a right to do it. It's like a comic that I can't stand what they say, and I want to kill the person, and it makes me sick that people are laughing. But I feel they have 100% the right to say it. I'm not. I don't want to silence anyone. But we were having a discussion, and it was okay. It didn't end up in an argument. It was like we both feel this way. But the truth is, America, you have a right. It's free speech and free bending your knee. Like it's like.
Well, it's also like to me, it's been a bit of a reveal. It's like, oh, what kind of protest do you like then?
I know.
Like you didn't like Kaepernick tried to do a peaceful protest as like in like the most like non-confrontational way possible, and y'all hated that. So now you get your Chanel looted. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Chanel.
It's like it's people tried to tell you. They tried to ask nicely, and you not only did you not ignoring them was an option, and you couldn't even do that. You had to like shut them down and call them thugs or whatever. People, and it's like, all right, well, this is what you get. I love to me that Kaepernick did that is such like a great thing now in this moment.
Yes.
Because you like look, you can say that you wanted peaceful protester, but look how did you react? It's sort of like a drop the mask of like, you don't seem to ever be okay with any black person telling you shit's fucked up.
Right. Well, it's also about opening
like,
the
maybe
states.
Maybe that's on you a little bit.
It's like you don't want people to get sick, but these states that are like, we're opening no matter what. Now look what's happening. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we've just decided like we can't stay home anymore, so like fuck it. Right?
Yeah, I think people are just going to get sick and whatever.
Yeah, like,
that's
all right,
what's
some
going.
people will die.
I know.
It's like
if you were asked to perform,
it's good for the stock market.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members for supporting the podcast.
All right, hold up. Could you take a little off the P's? You're hitting them too hard. Not action.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members for supporting the podcast.
Hold on. Now you're whispering Patreon. Is there a reason you're whispering?
Well, you said to take the
somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
You ready? Action.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon member.
Now you got to pause.
For those of you who don't know, Patreon members, is that okay?
It was perfect. Why'd you stop?
Oh, okay. Patreon members.
Cut. Let's go back to the beginning.
Thank you
and action.
Thank you so much to all my Patreon members for supporting the podcast. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast, ad-free episodes, and access to monthly live streams where we talk more about...
All right, let's take it back to the beginning. That was perfect. Do it exactly like that.
I just did it well, though,
Except
but why are you
finish it this
starting
time.
over? Thank you so much to all of my patron...
Cut. Why are you screaming?
Because I'm just trying to get through this.
Action.
Thank you so much to all of
Action.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast.
Perfect. Keep going.
There's so many P's.
Keep going. Keep going.
Ad-free episodes.
You
and
could cut this out, right?
For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast, ad-free episodes, and access to monthly live streams where we talk more about being relatively sane.
Hold up. Did we agree on monthly live streams?
Yes, you told me I should do them because it'll get more members.
I don't know how to do a monthly live stream.
Don't you just talk in your phone?
We'll figure it out. Come on, let's get through this. We have to go. We should
Okay.
speed this up.
All right. Thank you so much to all my Patreon members for supporting this podcast. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast, ad-free episodes, and access to monthly live streams. We don't know what that is, but whatever, where we talk about being relatively sane. If you want to join our fantastic community that is so corny, go to patreon.com/Jessica Curson. That's patreon.com/Jessica Curson. That's
hold on.
Patreon.
I think you said patriot.com.
Go to patreon.com/Jessica Curson. That's patreon.com/Jessica Curson. Patreon.com/Jessica Curson. Thanks again.
And cut. That's a wrap.
Yeah. How do you feel about traveling?
I'm like being on a plane or like in a comedy club. Like
Like if you
still
had to go on a
freaks me
plane
out.
and go to a comedy club, would you think you're going to wait a while?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I'm like, I know people are starting to do it. I don't, I do road stuff occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not like one of these road dogs who's out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess in my head, I just kind of like Labor Day, and after that seems like a logical sort of
Yeah.
return to stuff, unless there's some huge second wave.
Yeah, I feel weird about. I feel very weird about being in an airport. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It's like I at the point when this happened, I already was having a very hard time with traveling and just being around so many people and
yeah,
how disgusting people were being, and I just felt grossed out and the whole thing. And now I'm like, the thought of going through security in an airport is, ugh. I mean, I'll do it. Listen, I'm saying this publicly. If it's worth the money, I'll fucking walk somewhere.
right.
But it's, it's a little freaky.
It's like, I don't know if I need to be the guinea pig.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Let's
big-
wait and see
I'm
if
not
any
a big
of our
like
friends
early
gets.
adopter in general.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need to be the first person in line for the iPhone. I don't need.
Me too.
You guys, you try it.
Yeah.
I'll be right behind you.
It's even with
Be right behind
drugs. Like you try that pill, and if you
Totally.
don't foam
Yeah,
at the
and if
mouth
you're
and
having a
shit
good time in
yourself,
an hour, then I'll take one.
exactly. That's exactly. I feel this.
That's a good bit.
That is a good bit.
You guys try that airplane. Let me know how it feels.
Yeah, it's funny with your face, like with a huge smile. Hey, you guys try the pill, and then I'll see if I want to. Yeah, I know. It's so true. I mean, the hardest thing for me has been to not be around all of you guys, like to sit at the Comedy Cellar or wherever and be around people who get me and understand me, like that whole communal family kind of thing. That's been the hardest thing.
Yeah, it does. When I am hanging out with civilians or whatever you want to call them, it is something I have to remind myself is like the way comedians talk to each other is like super like weird to the rest of the world, or like aggressive,
Yeah.
or like whoa, like I can't
It is
believe you just
aggressive.
said that. I'm like, oh yeah, I you don't realize the things that I say to people, nor to my coworkers.
Coworkers, yeah.
To my coworkers, I say the most awful shit possible that you can imagine. But now around you, I have to behave. I forgot.
So are you living with your girlfriend or no?
No, we each have apartments, so we can kind of like walk between them in Brooklyn. So that's been nice. We did spend like 6 weeks with her family.
Oh, nice.
And that was interesting because it's like meet the parents / move in with them. So that was.
Oh, you told me that on
dynamic.
a text. I remember now.
Yeah.
How long were you guys together before you spent 6 weeks with them?
Like we first started dating in like October. I
Oh,
think.
that's not bad. I literally thought you were dating her for like 2 weeks and then went to her house.
No, I've heard about other people doing that. No, I think we had a pretty solid foundation before COVID hit, which I'm thankful for, because then I feel like this has been I don't know how you would judge things based just on this time period, but no, it's sort of like okay, no, it's yeah, because I also I live alone and stuff, so it would have been a very different coronavirus experience, otherwise.
Yeah, that's totally true. And so have you been the kind of person that's been good in relationships, do you feel like? Like, do you feel not, you know what I'm saying? I don't mean good like, do you handle relationships well? Do you find, let me talk about what I'm saying, because I've never even said this on the podcast ever. I've never said this.
Cool.
I mean, I may have said it on stage a couple times, but I've never said this on this podcast.
Let's get into it.
I'm not great in relationships. I'm always in one, but I'm not great in them, because I realized, especially now, that I really need to do more work on myself. You know, I mean, I'm in one and I have to deal with it and be okay, but I have a really hard time with certain things like abandonment, communication. I mean, there's things I really need to work on.
Do you buy into the attachment style theory of, like, you know, being anxious or avoidant or
yes,
those?
I really believe in all that stuff. I mean, I'm pretty.
So what are you?
I think I have major attachment stuff. Like I definitely have. I have a lot of stuff about being abandoned. So I will, like you have said, you know, I kind of, in my life, even when I'm in a relationship, like I feel like I isolate. I'm a little bit of a loner. I have, you know, I'm very
that
loving.
seems like opposites to me, though. So you're a loner who has fear of abandonment.
Yes, because I was always
tricky.
alone as a kid, but my parents weren't around a lot, but they were loving. It's very confusing.
No, I mean, I had similar. I just, maybe my outcome, I think I'm more avoidant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's been my pattern of, like, I'm easily claustrophobic or feel like the walls are closing in.
I get that.
So where I'm less, I think I'm more of I self-identified as like a lone wolf type and like seeker or something like that. But I think I've gotten better, and, you know, age and therapy I think has helped. But I think, you know,
Both
for
help.
most of my life I was probably not great in relationships, and made my girlfriends do a lot of work and housebreaking chores on
like
me.
you couldn't get close. You mean you couldn't get?
I mean, I could get close. I mean, I liked being in a relationship, but I would always sort of like, there'd be like some wall up, or sort of like, you know, I've always been like, had comedy or something else that was also like a mistress on some level, or something
Me
else that I cared
too.
about.
Yeah,
you know?
that's exactly how I am. Yep.
So, I mean, and part of what my therapist, like, like relationships and stuff was a big thing that we would talk about frequently. And it was sort of me feeling like I was a failure for being, you know, like older and single and not
It's
being
hard.
married and not having kids and stuff like that. And, you know, her trying to reframe that of like, it's not what you're really looking for is like connection, and, you know, what will connection and, you know, closeness with other people, and, you know, meaning and purpose and things like that. But like, you don't have to buy into society's narrative that this is the only one right way to get that there's
That's
other
so
ways that
true.
you could, you know, kind of get gratified in that way that you're seeking, that isn't necessarily this one path of, like, you know, being married and having kids. Because also it's like, it's weird, because then I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't do any of that stuff, did I really mess up? But for like the ages of 20 to 40, I was running away from anything that smelled like the suburbs or any girl who wanted to settle down. So
Yeah,
like,
of course.
you know, it's like I've made my choices, and so like to be, you know, I don't know if I would choose differently, but it's confusing, you know.
It is confusing. I mean, I've always had that just from being with women the whole time I've been talking about this a lot on all different podcasts, that feeling like, you know, I'm wrong. There's something wrong with me. I'm not like everyone else.
In what sense?
That I don't have a normal, quote unquote, in society's view, man and woman being in a relationship. Right. So I'm the one who's always had issues with it, not anyone around me. Like not my family. Well,
it's also society has shifted so much from when, you know, like in the past 20 years around it, whereas like, 20 years ago, it might've been like, although in New York, it's always been more progressive, but I feel like society now.
It's still fucked up. Meaning,
yeah,
I live on Long Island in New York, and when Danielle or I say my wife, it's never like, no, I shouldn't say that. It is sometimes. There are people like, oh, that's great. Da, 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 she must be. But they always assume we're married to a man, both of us. So what does your husband do? What does your husband do? What?
Long Island is so weirdly like Republican and
It
like
is. It's very
in
conservative.
people don't talk about it that
It's
much.
very
but, yeah.
conservative. Very. So it's like I still am in a situation where it would be kind of weird, and not that I wouldn't do it, but like to walk down in the mall with Danielle holding hands with our kids. Like
Yeah.
it just, I would not do that.
Well,
on Long
even like
Island.
Ellen coming out on her show, like that wasn't like the '60s. You know, what was that?
I
Was
know.
like late '90s
Right,
or
and
something.
it
It
was
wasn't
such a
that long
big
ago, and that
deal.
was like a scan. Like what a story that was in
Yeah.
America. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I think that, I mean, there's also a ton of people who are not okay with it, and you can tell. You can just feel it. I can't explain it. That's why I've said
Yeah.
lately, unless you've been a Black person living in that life as that
Sure.
person, you cannot tell anyone how they feel. It's crazy to me. It's like
Yeah.
no one can tell me how it feels to be a gay. I mean, unless they're gay. Also a woman, Jewish. Like there's different things we are that we experience.
What I think the way I think about that sometimes, and I think you'll appreciate this, is like I feel like as a Jew, I just have like anti-Semdar of when someone's anti-Semitic.
Yes, me too.
You know, it's sort of like on Fox
Anti-Semdar.
News sometimes it'll just be like the way they pronounce Dianne Feinstein's name. You're like, oh, you got to listen to Senator Feinstein. I'm like, that guy doesn't like Jews. I can tell you right now, that guy has a man. I'm sure
Yeah.
no Christian person would ever
Yeah.
know what the fuck I'm talking about. I can guarantee you that person that has a problem with Jews
That's
from
funny.
how they accurately pronounce the word Feinstein.
You saw who spoke, Dianne Feinstein.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
just
very-
like, it's like right under the surface. It just like pops up. You're like, oh, all right.
Well, the Jewish stuff is even, to me, might even be worse at this point. Like how people, not in New York, of course, but just the anti-Semitism, even more than. I mean, I feel like people are more
Well,
accepting.
it's almost like the one thing the right and the left can agree on is that they both hate Jews. It's like we're the common
That's
ground.
hilarious.
Like, we can heal you guys. Black Lives Matter. White supremacists. You know what you have in common right here. You hate
Yeah,
us.
and it's not our.
We're the bridge.
It's not our fault that we're chosen. You know what I'm saying? It's not. You know what I said on stage?
no one likes it when we say that.
I don't give a shit. That's why I said it.
I know.
You know what I always said on stage when I was a comedian before I became a
What?
Zoom speaker?
What did you always? I feel
I
like it's
didn't
like
even
a
say
game show from the
comedian.
70s. What did you always say?
I said Zoom speaker. I didn't even say comedian because I don't have any jokes anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a sit down philosopher.
Yeah,
now. That's what
exactly.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I look like I've been mugged. I'm done. I've completely given up.
Oh,
No,
Now we don't even have to get out of bed.
I'm in bed.
I
I'm
know.
in bed in my t-shirt and I have sweatpants on. It's actually, I love that part of it. This I can
Yeah.
be fine. And before
But wait,
this,
what did you say? What did you always say?
Oh, I
don't wanna miss
said,
the line.
I don't understand why people have always hated us. Which that part is 100% true. I really don't get it. I wish I did, but like Danny Cohen, my friend, who a lot of people know who listen to this, he
Sure.
tries to explain it to me that it's been since the beginning of time, but I still don't. But I say I don't know why everyone hates us. All we ever did was succeed, and it's like it gets a huge laugh because everyone. But it's like, when is it enough? I mean, that's what's reminding me with the Black Lives Matter. It's like, how much do you want us to suffer? Like, just, they've been through enough. These people, it's like, I can't believe people still hate Jews so much. I don't understand what the problem is. It's so weird to me.
Well, it's because George Soros is paying all these protesters
Yeah.
to show up.
And then
So,
I
you
know I can't. I know he paid someone to get pushed and get brain damage. The guy even took money to do that.
I know.
To bleed
I
from
would
his
just-
ear.
Yeah, I just want to apply. Like, I
I
want some
know.
of this Soros money.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, just put flyers around the neighborhood. You want some Soros money? Call George.
I don't know. I don't understand hate, and I can really not
I mean,
like
it's all about
someone
like,
and-
I mean, it's about in-group and out-group dynamics. Jews are, we're very like
yeah.
weird and secretive and people of the book, and we have our own language
That's
and we don't
very
want
true.
outsiders, and like, and we're shifty and like gonna, and then we're wind up being smart and making lots of money. And, it's like, I get it. I'm not endorsing it.
I
wish
never
people
looked at
didn't
it
hate
like
us.
that, but now I hate Jews. No, I'm joking.
It's also everyone hates the boss. Everyone hates their landlord. Well, who are all the landlords in
true.
New York? No one's ever like, yeah, my landlord's a great guy. Also, I love the Jews. Those are two things you never hear.
It's amazing to me that the Hasidic people wouldn't stay apart because
Well, they get all their news off of WhatsApp group texts. They don't even know what's happening.
oh God, yeah, were you weren't brought up religious, were you?
No, I mean I like bar mitzvah and stuff.
Me
but,
too. I mean,
um,
but I
no,
didn't
but
know
I mean,
because
I have been doing. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I do Torah study once a week because after I did ayahuasca, I was flooded with all this Jewish imagery of like my ancestors and stuff, and thought like I was curious to know more about. I like Jews a lot, and I felt like if I like running the app so much, I should look at the source code. So like,
you just
what is
literally
this
inspired
book?
me. Tell me about this class. Is it all men?
I mean, I meet with a rabbi. Like,
Oh.
no, I mean, it's like once a week we do like a Zoom call like this, and but yeah, I mean, it's sort of like I was sort of like, what is this book that keeps making Jews? Like,
No, I
almost
really like that. I would do that. I really feel like I need to be more connected because I look at it from a place of being, which is not right because it's really just the very religious people, but of being like better than, and like the Orthodox people, just judging and they don't accept my lifestyle, and they don't like, I have negative
sure.
stuff about it, but I'm very positive about my Jew. Like, I love the traditions, the customs, the culture. I love being Jewish, and I feel like I don't know a lot at all. Like, I'm really clueless.
Yeah, that's how I was, and like I'm still not like some scholar or anything, but just sort of looking at it in a way of I don't know. Like part of what Peace said to me that kind of makes sense is like American Jews get like such a watered down version of Judaism that it's no wonder they kind of reject it on some level.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, it's like, and I don't think I'll ever be one of these like full throttle Jews, but I kind of get it. It's almost like you got to be all in. It's almost like comedy or something. It's like, are you a comedian? You can't just kind of like dabble.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't dabble with comedy.
You do it or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like this way of life that, if you really want. For me, sometimes it's almost more like reading Shakespeare or something. Sort of like, okay, or Joseph Campbell, or like what are the archetypes? And also it's like sort of to me, like I come to it's sort of like the Jewish version of like mindfulness, of like
yes,
morality and ethics and storytelling, all, and sort of community all woven together through these stories and holidays and rituals that we do. And I think there's something beautiful about it. It's also like, I don't know, then I feel guilty for not being a better Jew, for not like keeping kosher or doing all these things. But also, I'm like,
now
well,
does he encourage?
It might be too late for me,
No. Does he encourage you to like? Does he encourage you to live by the laws?
Yeah, I think I'm disappointing him.
See, that's not going to work for me.
I mean, he doesn't say it.
I know, but still, I'll read that in 1 second because of my upbringing.
Right. Well, I think he's. It's like there's a certain amount of egotism that he's just like kind of sad for me. He's like,
I know that's how they are with me.
Your life would have much more meaning and purpose and joy if you truly believed, if you and acted on it and behaved like a proper Jew should behave. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. It might be too late for me to do that, but like, let's read this book together, and like at least I'll know a little more.
Well, do you think part of why he gets upset and feels that way is because you're eating a pork sandwich while you're talking to him?
I have like cooked bacon before, and like I've been like, oh boy, do I smell like bacon? Uh-oh.
Can you every time just start eating something that you're not?
I know it's like a hack street joke, but I always thought it was great. Like, how can I believe in any God that won't let me eat bacon?
It's really true.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good point.
Bacon is like chocolate. I'm a salt person, right?
Bacon I am too. Yeah.
is heaven.
It's empirically delicious. There's no
right.
I don't even think Jews debate that. They're just like, yeah, we can't eat it. I believe you, it's delicious, but I can't.
And then you can't eat cheese with a burger? You got to be kidding me.
Pepperoni pizza, yeah. My mom tried to keep kosher for it lasted for about 6 months when I was growing up, and then it was like, no. But she was like a real seeker, always like sort of dabbling and like
Your mom would
trying to
have been
make us
best
religious
friends
and
with
stuff.
my mother.
Yeah.
You're describing my mother who's a therapist, a hippie, an artist, an art therapist. I mean, they would have been like, she was a total hippie. And it's interesting. We have a
It
similar.
makes sense why we hit it off.
Yeah,
then.
it makes sense because that's how she is. And then my dad is a business guy, you know, Republican. It's just interesting. It's an interesting thing. But I want to get into your album before we wrap this up because that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on. I want to promote it. So tell us about your album.
Okay, so it's a special on YouTube. Feels Like Matt Ruby is the name of it. So you can watch it on YouTube, and then it's also an album that you can download, stream everywhere. And I kind of did two different versions. Like the special, also I did like sort of like this mini documentary and like some. We taped like an audience Q&A after the show, and it turned out great. So we wove that in. So it's stand up, but then there's also like some other stuff woven in. And then the album is just the stand up, but it has like 10 or 15 minutes of extra content. So, and I'm super proud of it. I think I worked really hard on it, and I think it's really funny. And people have been calling it thinking man's comedy. It was a couple people.
I love that. That's a huge compliment.
Yeah, because for me, sort of like the pinnacle of stand-up is like you got to get laughs, you got to be funny, like that's obvious. But then also like if you can tell a joke that a couple days later people are like, yeah, I was thinking about that joke that guy was saying the other day, and like if it spurs like a conversation.
I have to tell you now more than ever that's crucial, and that's the only comedy that I think I would respond to now. Is you're teaching people while you're telling. I know it's so important now. So that's great.
Yeah, thanks. And so and I recorded it in January. But I'm so happy that I got it in the can before all this hit.
I know.
Like just going back to old material after this, I think is going to feel like super weird and awkward and stuff. So I'm just.
That's why I keep saying I have no material. I'm like I
don't know if any of us do.
Yeah. Well, what is it called? Like, where can people and what are your social?
Feels Like Matt Ruby, which is because it's based on. I actually just posted it today. I have a joke about fake news is like feelings being more important than facts, and that all started with the wind chill. Like the wind chill was the original fake news because we're like, news, what's the temperature? And the news like, well, this is how cold it feels. And then they just deal with politics. They're like, Hillary gave some speeches at Goldman Sachs, but it feels like she runs a child sex ring out of a pizza parlor. That's how it feels.
That's very funny. I love that.
Thank you. And so it feels like Matt Ruby kind of came from that joke. So, but that's the title of it. Yeah, and watch the like just on YouTube. It's free, no ads, and like I just released it like a week ago. It's already got tens of thousands of views.
That's
and
great.
I'm hopeful that it's spread. It's like it was a little bit of an experiment, just like I had to pay to self-produce it and stuff. And I think there is like for me this like interesting. I didn't know. I feel like if the ratio of people liking it to disliking it is really high, and then also like the average watch time is like over like 20 minutes for a YouTube video, I think is pretty good. And
that's
so then
very
I think
good. Yeah, I mean, in a minute,
the algorithm starts
stop.
Like feeding it to more people. They're like, okay, this is like, and so like I'm scared of shit being determined by algorithms in general. But I'm like, okay, if it gets my stand up out to more people, that's good.
That's great. What's your handle on Instagram? And Twitter.
On Instagram, I'm Ruby Matt, RUBYMATT, and on Twitter, I'm Matt Ruby.
I know you're like me. I had to change it on different things. It's great. I don't even know why I did that.
And then I'm like, should I be like Ruby is a gem and do that everywhere? Just so I'm consistent. And then I'm like, I don't know. It's pretty cheesy. I don't want to be. Oh,
I could do JK. Recording. Just kidding.
Hey.
I know that's a bad one. I know that's
also,
really.
It's just the opposite of your actual. I know it's your initials, but I do not feel it's like Jessica Kirson, JK.
Oh, that would be it.
It's like some LA like teeny bopper comedian.
Yeah, please welcome JK.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you so much. I don't just think you're brilliant and hysterical and just I want everyone to check you out. Go check out Matt Ruby. He's so amazing, so smart, and also I just really like you as a person, which I get along with everybody, but there's some people it's weird. I was talking to you at New York Comedy Club right before.
I remember that night.
Was right before
when the
this
NBA
happened.
Broke. I felt like that was the day coronavirus broke big.
That was crazy. And you and I were kind of freaking out a little. The show was canceled. Yeah. And I talked to you, and my dad was really sick, and I I teared up to you, which I never do. Never. And I felt that comfortable that I got emotional when I was talking to you. And I'm like, well, then I like him and I trust him because I don't do that a lot. And
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
yeah, you were just so kind and just you're great. And I'm so glad that you did the podcast. And I want you guys to all follow Matt and listen to him, and then come when things come, open back up again. We do shows together all the time. So in New York.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you so much for saying that. So nice. And I just want to say, it means a lot coming from you, and also, and just from a comedian perspective, like watching you perform over the years has been I don't know if people tell you, but I feel like you're really inspirational to a lot of people for
That's very
how
sweet.
present you are, and being hilarious, and also being yourself, and being funny, and being dark, and being real and human, and kind of in an ongoing way that's a challenging thing to do within comedy. And
Thank you.
I think I know I always enjoy watching and learning from you and how you perform. So
No, you're
thank
so
you.
sweet. You're awesome. Yeah, we have to work on a project together when this all
I'd love
ends.
to.
I'd love that. Well, thank you again. Check out Matt's special and album, and I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna watch your special tonight on YouTube. I didn't, for some
Do
reason,
it.
I'm
Yeah.
so out of it. I didn't know that you.
I think you'll dig it. Let me know what you think.
I know I will, because I love the way you think. But thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it. I'll see
Okay.
you soon.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yes. Okay. Bye.